Okay, let's delete the save file. Okay, and let's try the bouncing again. Alright, so looks like the force applied is too small. Okay, and another thing that we have to add to the impulse ability is one of the most important part that we have not added yet, which is a physics body that allows it to be affected by gravity. Oh, okay. So we have already added it over here. Okay, but we have to set the gravity scale as 1. So think of it as going from the moon back to Earth. Okay, let's make sure that we have deleted the save file so that the tutorial will show. Alright, so now when I press X, right, so as you can see, the projectile now just drops, which means that our force applied is too small. Okay, let me check OBS. Okay, OBS is working. Okay, so let's increase the amount of force applied to maybe 6. Okay, let's try 24. And let's increase the delay to 24 as well. So that we can give it more time to bounce around. Huh, interesting. Okay. Okay, we might need more force. Okay, due to the fact that I have set gravity to be in the game. Hey man, it's also my favorite part of the game. Okay, especially when you add something new to the game. Okay, so you notice that this time the sprite is bouncing, which means that we just need a little more force. And that's one of the good points of using Unity, is that you can easily change the values of objects within the game and test the game itself. Okay, so as you can see, okay, there is a small curve, although it's not that visible when you fire the impulse projectile. So 96 times 2, which is 192. Oh wait, okay, let me delete the save file. So instead of having the projectile bounce in a very fast velocity, we'll have it curve and bounce in a more realistic motion. Okay, so if I bounce, right, so now it comes out in a more realistic curve. Which is what we want. Okay, 192. Okay, let's try 300. Okay, force apply. Alright, so only the first time it curve, which means that we have to apply the same amount of force every time for the x-axis as well. If it hits a wall on the bottom, bounce material. Wait, you mean you can do that? Okay, so that means You mean you can add a physics material that allows bouncing? Okay, let me check. Bounciness. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Alright, so let's try adding a bounciness physics material. Okay, to the projectile that we will use for impulse. Okay, by the way, okay, the physics materials are what control the physics of any object. So remember that we mentioned about the icy world where the tiles can be slippery. That's when we can use the physics material to make the tiles slippery so that your characters will skid across the platforms. Alright, so let's go with this. Okay, let's go with 1. And for the material, we'll use impulse bouncy. So that means we might not need to apply any other forces. Okay, so the save file is deleted. Okay, by the way, this is my first time trying the bouncy physics material. So let's see what will happen. Alright, so if I press X, oh, that's interesting. So it really bounces. Ooh. Okay, so that's really cool. Right, so that means all we have to do is to apply a force along the x-axis to make it bounce forward or backwards. Okay, so that is really cool. Hey, thanks Rodolfo for the tip about the physics material. Okay, so over here we'll just change to applying a force on the x-axis. Okay, so we will make it random as well. force X, and the y-axis will be 0. Okay, let's try that out and hope it works. Alright, so if I press the X key, okay, so it bounces left and right, but it doesn't bounce in a constant direction, and that's because we set it as random. So let's not set it as random. Or rather, let's set the random range impulse. Okay, maybe we can try with 360. Okay, you might think that 360 is a huge amount of force, but it isn't, as I set the gravity of the entire atmosphere in the game to be rather high. Okay, so if I press X again, oh, okay, so now it bounces. Huh. Okay, now it seems as though we have applied too much force. Okay, because we want it to gradually or slowly decrease its velocity. Okay, so what we can do is we can slowly decrease the force applied. Okay, so and we update the force applied each time it bounces on a tile. So for example, if we push it with a force of 90, the next time will be 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, and so on and so on. Okay, OBS is working. Okay, we are almost getting the bouncing movement correct. Okay, once that is done, we can move on with the impulse animation. Right, so if I press X, so it starts from 360 and goes to 350. Okay, but from the previous test through, or from what you have saw just now, it seems as though as it's going faster and faster. So which means that we will still need to decrease the force even further as it bounces. Okay, so if I press the X key, right, so now it gradually, or it stops in the it stops as it bounces along. Okay, something still feels off. Okay, so to reduce the bounciness as it bounces, we have to change the bouncy factor on the physics material as it bounces. So it's the same as changing the friction. Okay, so I've done this before with the friction over here. Remove the friction. Wait, so by removing the friction, doesn't removing the friction makes it easier to bounce? Right, let's just try with zero friction and see if it bounces correctly. Okay, but what we are aiming for here is having the projectile bounce and bounce, but slowly and slowly decreasing its bounciness. So it will stop bouncing towards the end. Oh, okay. So zero friction works great, as you can see. Wait a minute. Okay, but one thing is for sure, we have to decrease the bounciness on the projectile. Okay, so let's copy this and paste it over here. Okay, so what we are doing here is to reduce the bounciness, gradually. So that it stops bouncing after a while. Okay. Okay, line 3, 1, 4. Oh,